Welcome back to Echo Ridge and another episode here in our farm series. We have a lot to do today. Step 1's going to be flipping the entire colony over to using this power brick and start building up our spine. Unfortunately, we've run out of natural gas. The one natural gas geyser that we had tamed has since gone dormant and will be out of commission for the next 40 cycles. There is another one up here. And I know there's one more, or at least I thought there was, somewhere else on the colony. Here it is, right down here on the left side. So I need to tap into those as well. And then finally, we have this giant geode here. I think I'm going to try to use the geode's natural gas first, and then tap into those other geysers as we need. Also in today's episode is I've decided to do something different with our water once again. Remember, this colony has a lot of water geysers. 3 over here, couple of cool steam vents, a cool slush geyser here, and I think that's it, although I have the feeling I'm missing one. There's a lot of vents and geysers here, and until I get this whole area nice and dug out, it can be difficult to see everything. But because we have all those water geysers means I'm going to need to be able to store all of this water. So I'm thinking about 4 very large tanks, about this size each, that span from about here over. 1 for salt water, 1 for brine, 1 for polluted water, and 1 for regular water. From there, have the sort of water treatment plant or water treatment facility with multiple outputs, so no matter what kind of liquid the crops will require in the future, we will have it. Speaking of crops, does anybody remember why I have these mealwood sitting inside the hatch farm? I don't remember us needing the mealwood, and if we did, why did I only plant 4 when it takes 5 to feed a dupe? Looking at our numbers, I think we are fine on food. We're feeding 5 from the hatch ranch. Actually, we're not feeding 5 on the hatch ranch because we're still doing omelets. So we're only feeding 3 or 3.5 off of omelets. Another 3 duplicants from pip omelets, 3 more duplicants from the Drecos, and a little over 6 duplicants worth of dust caps. So maybe that mealwood was just to put us over a little bit. But why wouldn't I have just planted more mushrooms? So I suppose step 1 is going to be clearing all this area out. I can't get around these oil reservoirs, nor this amber fossil. So I suppose this is going to have to be the bottom of our large tanks, which is definitely not as exciting. So maybe this is our water plant. But step 1 today really has to be able to get this power on, because right now we don't have any power inside this sauna, and the entire colony is actually still using these power substations, which I also want to get rid of today. Now I'm going to be using a small liquid lock to be able to get in here to be able to put the gas pump. But I also need to make sure it's going to be a good enough liquid lock, because if I just use one of my little bead locks, there is a chance a duplicant will break it, and then we have big problems. Even though this is such a convenient spot to put like a little bit of naphtha. So is this part right here as well. And that would be a little bit closer to where we need to ingest it. Okay, no guts, no glory. Suppose we'll use some crude oil here. I do need to make sure that no other liquids fall on it, which doesn't seem to be a problem over here. I'll just have to always remember that there is a liquid lock sitting here. Of course, it shouldn't take us too long to use all this natural gas. We're going to be able to store 2 tiles right from the rip, thanks to our new larger gas reservoirs. I suppose I could add some more temporarily. We'll see how long it takes for the sauna to use this much gas, and we may shift plans in the future. Now look, I know a lot of you are betting the fact that this tiny little beadlock is going to break, but why would you root for my downfall? There are plenty of opportunities for chaos. We don't always have to find it on this channel. And there we go. Thank you, Patrick. Now we can get in here and start making some more room. Gobble up this delicious diamond. I was scrolling around the map and I realized there's only one geyser down here in this bottom right here, in a form of a chlorine gas vent. So this might not be a bad location, something like this, for my wonderful large planetoid-sized buffer tanks. Now to make sure that we can get 1 full pipe of gas, we're going to use 2 gas pumps. We don't need to insulate this line because all this natural gas is sitting at 30 degrees. So we'll just bring it back down here. And then all I need to do is provide it a little bit of power. While this line has way too much, it'll have to do until we get our power spine back up and working. Well, it didn't take too long. This gas reservoir is already full. The lines are all chock full. And we have 264 kilos worth of pressure still. So I suppose we can start by putting power transformers just about everywhere. Uh-oh, somebody's trapped. Dullahan, what are you doing? Oh, that's easy enough. Whee! As I was saying, we can start putting large power transformers everywhere. I don't need to make these out of steel though, so we will go with the gold, and then I can just tie in wherever we need to. Oh, I need to move this hydrogen generator as well, but we can get rid of all of this. I suppose the hydrogen generators don't really need to be accessible, so we're going to put them right over here. I'll just squeeze them in wherever we can. Now the question is, do I want to move this gas reservoir? Probably, because the hydrogen sitting in it is at 60 degrees. I suppose that's a good enough spot right there, except gold is not going to work. I just realized it'd probably be nice if I can get these into a room with a power control station as well. Then we need a place for the hydrogen to come in. I guess since the natural gas is coming in from the bottom, it's not a bad idea to have the hydrogen come in from the top, because we're going to have an ingest line here, and then there's another one over here. Not to mention this one here. It's a lot of hydrogen. Well, that took a little bit longer than I expected. We start off with our wonderful power plant, 91 tiles in size. I had to put a little door here because the room was originally a little bit too large. But we have 2 hydrogen generators and a smart battery set on 9070, which means they fire even before the natural gas generators do. You can see that they are providing an incredible 1200 watts apiece, and I have a little bit of automation set up to them as well. If this gas reservoir ever gets too full, it'll send out a red signal when it reaches that level, which right now we have it set on 9080. So when this reservoir is 90% full, it'll send out that red signal, which our NOT gate will flip to green, which will turn the hydrogen generators on just in the same way that the smart battery does. Now the intake hydrogen line runs the top of the power brick, with this long line collecting hydrogen from this SPOM and our primary SPOM up here. And then this SPOM here rides this path and then joins up with the rest of the hydrogen intake up here. And since I've done that, the natural gas generators have only been on 0.1% of the time in the last 5 cycles. We're going to have such a ridiculous amount of power on this colony. We're going to do all sorts of crazy and weird things, all in the name of advancing the farm. Now I've already hooked a couple of the power grids up. First, this area here, and then the second line is running the thermal aqua tuner that's cooling our oxygen and keeping our base cool. Now I only have about 3 more grids to get connected to the main power spine, and I think we'll do that right here and probably one right up here. Now eventually I'm going to have a whole power spine shaft that's going to go all the way up and all the way down, which will further limit the amount of negative decor out in the normal area. But for now it's not too big of a deal anyways, because the dupes really never have a reason to come over here. Alright, this line will get this grid off this supply here. So I can basically do one of these numbers. I had thought these 2 grids were separate, but they're actually on the same. Look at this potential load of 6,945 watts. But so many of the buildings are idle, it's only drawing up to 600 watts. And now the last one is this one here, which, to tell you the truth, it might be smart to split these up, and then I could put these on the same line here. I always forget that heavy watt conductive wire requires a learned skill. And as it stands, apparently I only have 1 duplicant that can do it. What is so special about Matthew Campbell? Well, it's the electrical engineering, I'm guessing. And the only other duplicant that can help out with that is sulfur. I need to find some more mechatronics engineers, because they're also responsible for doing all of the work at the power control stations and giving all the generators the NG tune-ups. Hence the reason why they're often busy. It's okay. I suppose that's why they created a priority 6. And there we go. The entire colony is now connected to the power spine. And the natural gas generators have now ran 0.5% of the time. We need to get to using some power. Now the question is how I'm going to do this dig and where these tanks are going to end up. I like them tucked away here in the corner. And I know we'll eventually need this chlorine gas vent. Maybe I can put it in a box and we'll eventually pull the chlorine out of it. And if we do that, then I would be able to use a lot more space for these mega tanks. But if I'm going to be traveling all the way down here, and I need to use more power, what about putting in a nice tube system? Here we are. This won't be too bad at all now. Now the question is what this tube network's going to look like. Do I put the transit tube access points right here? Because as it stands, we don't have any sort of main ladder rungs or anything like that. How did we get here without having a primary ladder? All right, let me follow this line and see if it hits any geysers. This is a little close to the iron volcano, but we can go the other way. Nope, that will not work because the natural gas geyser is right here. This area here is always going to have problems with this hydrogen vent. Although if it's over here, let's say these 3 tiles, I contain this in this direction. And of course, there's this in the way. And there's an oil reservoir and cool steam vent in the way there. Also this cool slush geyser, that's not going to work either. So I finally get a colony that I am able to put a power spine back in. And it looks like I'm going to have a spaghetti transportation network. It's okay, I can do spaghetti. Well, this is a very long lead wire. But once again, we tapped into our power spine, and this one conductive wire will run the tube access point here and the tube access point here. All right, I think I have found a possible main line, so I can avoid some bits of spaghetti. I'm just holding the mouse and pretending like I'm about to do a dig on this 3 wide, so it's easy to see. And I'm using 3 wide because 1 for the ladder, 1 for the fire pole, and then 1 for a main tube access. Doing the research for the tube access point has reminded me this system was temporary. We will eventually get around to a proper radiation research setup, but we only have 3 more points. It's not worth doing it right now. So I suppose we're just not going to have 2 spines, because no matter where I look on this side, it's just not possible. So this will be the primary spine, which we can get started with now. And we'll just, dig all the way down and all the way up. Oh, I should probably not dig into there yet. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. What are you? It's the iron volcano. Cancel that. What if I go 1 over? So far, so good. Okay, this won't be too bad, even though that tree's going to have to go away. And we'll go down to, say, all the way through here. I mean, it's not a big deal if we make a little bit of mess. This is the bottom of the map. And then same thing with going up. We'll stop right before the natural gas geyser, and we'll do that at some other time. Now, I'm not excited about spending all this metal for the fire pole, but it only has to be built once, from 92 tons to 72 tons. During the construction of our transportation network, we have found another dupe that's eligible. They have farming and ranching, check. They also have supplying and tidying. In addition, they're handy and a grease monkey, and the only thing they can't do is cook. Welcome to the colony, duplicate number 18, Maxine Evie. Maxine's going to be doing all the supplying, storing, and tidying. I just realized I probably don't want my tube access points right here, because then I'd have to cross over here, which would ruin the nice fire pole positioning. So I think we're going to move them. Just like I have to move a lot of these wires, because I typically like them behind the ladders, so it hides them a little bit. Also got to move all these gas pipes. A lot of maintenance in today's episode. I haven't even gotten started on our giant buffer tanks. We've reached a brief snag in our excavation in the fact that we hit some fossil fragments. I think we have a Masterworks decorator. Now I have no idea why excavation requires Masterworks decoration, but Snacky is the dupe that is prepared to do it, which I suppose this series might be the first time we've done this ancient specimen story. That'll be fun. Now all we have to do is put in some transit tubes. Lucky for us, we're up to 160 tons of Dreco plastic. We'll just go all the way up and all the way down. We've cleared out most of the area, and then whenever we make a new row, I can just come right off the main tube. And now the major construction can begin. But first, we need to put in our scaffolding. Kind of makes me wonder, how many duplicates do you think are going to get trapped when I pull this trigger? I guess we're going to find out. Don't worry, I'll keep good care of them. I don't even need to say the thing. Although I guess I should, for any of our new viewers. Duplicate safety is the #1 priority here at Echo Ridge Gaming. What do we think? Montage time? Let's do it. Well, that didn't take very long. What are you doing, Joe? This should be okay as long as we prioritize the path out for Joe. but otherwise they're sitting in a pit of carbon dioxide. Best wishes! Oh, look at this. We never had any doubt, did we? Houston, we may have a problem. I didn't see this. It's a cool salt slush geyser. Oh, that's not too bad. It's not going to be exactly lined up with the other cool salt slush geysers. I was worried it was a volcano for a minute. Progress is going well, but I feel like it would be better if the duplicants would use the transit tubes more. The duplicants that come out of this door, they choose to use the fire pole instead of going 2 spaces over. Now, the duplicants coming out of the top door do end up using it, mostly just to go down here. So it makes me think that it's prioritized by how quick I can get to the transit tube access point versus my destination, and not necessarily to do with the overall time it would take. One advantage is the duplicants are using this access point to head back to the other door or to head to the sauna, which is helping us out a little bit. This area here, we're going to have to open the security door, and only then will we be able to deconstruct everything. We'll see what's in the rooms before we bulldoze the rest of it, but of course, wouldn't it be kind of nice to have a little snack area inside one of the buffer tanks? We might have to leave the vending machine now. Well, this room was anticlimactic. It's like a little swimming pool area. Do I keep the break area inside the buffer tank? I'm not exactly sure. I suppose while the dupes are finishing this up, I can start the tank construction. Now, I know I need 4 tanks, and we have about 80 tiles-ish, so maybe 20 tiles per tank. Each tank is going to need its own ladder rung, which this is starting to get extremely expensive. I guess big projects equals big cost. Uh-oh. I guess we might be able to save this, but we're going to have to clean everything out of it now because it's right in the middle of 2 tanks. Let me get a massive sweep going, and then I'll seal it up. Now, the bottom of the tanks is going to be right about here. I'm not going all the way to the abyssalite. Oh, why are we using granite? I don't want to use granite. I don't want to go all the way to the abyssalite because I might need to be able to service from under the tanks, and this will give me an easy opportunity. I'm also sweeping everything on top of this geyser because I need to put it in a box. This is not the brine tank. This is going to be the water tank. So we're going to pump it from here and drop it into the brine intake, which I think the brine one's going right here. With the first ladder run done, I can build the first wall. Looks like the second one is complete as well. And it figures, just as I was about to use the salt water to push out all the carbon dioxide, it goes dormant. No big deal, we'll wait around. I'm sure it'll take us a while to fill this area up anyways. I also need to keep the bottoms mopped because this water does not belong in here. Although, we still gotta make this whole level splash down. I managed to get the dupes to use the tubes more by putting little exit points right by the beginning of each tank. I'm really having some ethical dilemmas. While I like our little recreation room in between the tanks, I don't like the polluted oxygen in it, nor do I like the broken light fixture. So I think this is what we're going to do. I'm going to meet myself in the middle. I'm going to demolish the light fixture. Get rid of all this wire just in case. There we go. Now the thing is, I'm wondering if in 1,000 cycles, when these tanks are nice and full, am I going to be annoyed at myself for not getting rid of all this polluted oxygen? Should I just destroy the vending machine and everything now? These are the type of existential thoughts that the pod thinks of. We also finished analyzing this chlorine gas vent and setting it up, except for the fact that I forgot an Atmos sensor. You don't have to use an Atmos sensor, I just like to. That way I can have some sort of automation tied to the gas pump. Now I'm getting ready to set up a big old sweep of the entire tank, but a lot of it is bottles of liquid. Well, we're eventually going to be filling these tanks up anyways, so I might as well start by having a few bottle emptiers for each tank. Here's our water, polluted water here, brine, and finally salt water. I just realized I'm going to need to make 2 more. One for oil and one for petroleum. Maybe we'll put those in this corner. We'll let that be a future Echo problem. Well, I know staring at a bunch of empty tanks isn't exactly exciting. We didn't do too bad today though. We put in the hydrogen power plant. We started utilizing our spine for the entire colony. We tapped into this natural gas with a super secure and powerful liquid lock. By the way, there's still 230 kilos in every tile. But on the good news, the natural gas generators have been running 22% of the time now. Next episode's going to be all about building some intake and output pipes, and you know I'm going to overcomplicate that system. Then we're going to have to move all this water from all around the map into each perspective tank. We've gotten a couple comments saying, well, this doesn't look like a farm yet. Not a whole lot of critters, not a whole lot of plants. To that I say, Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was this mega farm. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.